Okay, now my mind is completely blown. Suddenly my channel has jumped over 330 subscribers. I'm amazed. I can't believe it's happening. But I thank each and every one of you that has subscribed to my channel. I thank all of you that have liked my videos and that have commented on them. And I especially thank those of you who are sharing them with other people, because that has to be part of the reason why I'm getting so many new subscribers. I just am amazed. I can't, it's hard for me to describe how I feel right now. It's just astounding to me that many people want to hear what I have to say. But as I've said before, and I'll say again, as long as people want to hear what I have to say, I'll keep talking. So, as some of you know who've been following my videos, I've recently gotten introduced to an artist named Ren, and I've done a couple of reactions to his music. But I want to do something a little bit different today, because I ran across something recently that I found interesting about him. Before I get into that, I want to point out that on my Hi Ren reaction video, there was a commenter named Jens Randolph who posted a very lengthy history of Ren and what he's been through. If you're not familiar with him or you don't know what's going on in his life, I would recommend you read Jen's comment, because it's extensive and it covers a lot of the material regarding what he's been through, what he's still going through, all the difficulties that he's had. And it's kind of strange because it's sort of what I want to talk about today. So let's take a look. This is a short that popped up in my feed yesterday, and I watched it and I was intrigued and surprised, and I wanted you to hear it.
Right, for anyone who hasn't been following, we've buried a suitcase full of a lot of money somewhere in the world. And when I say world, I mean world. I don't just mean necessarily England or Canada. It could be anywhere. We've buried that, and if you haven't been following what I've been doing, you can check out the terms and conditions and stuff on the. I'll put a link to the website. And basically, the first person, anyone watching this story, could be near you. The first person who finds it and thinks that they've cracked the coordinates by solving all the riddles in the previous challenges, if you email the email that we've got on the website and the answer's correct, we'll be in touch with you. We'll let you know it's correct, and then we're going to send you a link to live stream you finding this suitcase and digging up this suitcase. It's going to be exciting. And if you can't take part, it's going to be live streamed tomorrow around 6 p.m. So yeah, let's go.
Okay, so at first I thought, what in the world is he doing this for? I don't really understand what he's up to. And apparently it's been going on for a while, because he's been dropping clues, as he says. And of course, I'm not aware of any of that, and I wasn't interested in trying to figure out the clues, because I don't need money. But I'm sure that there were some people whose interest would be piqued and they would want to go check it out. So today this pops up in my feed. Apparently it was filmed two days ago, and it's, I assume, the actual treasure hunt, them taking someone to the place. And I'm not going to show you this whole video. Frankly, for me, it was rather boring. But I do want to show you the end, because it brings up something that I want to talk about. But they get on a boat and they go to what appears to be an island, and they go do some trekking through some fairly difficult terrain. And they end up with what looks like a laptop on fire, and they dig up a briefcase. And when they open the briefcase, it's full of seashells. And then they find a bag in the briefcase. They open the bag and there's an apple in it. And there's also a note. And the note says, "Eat this," and the guy eats it. And then this starts.
apple?
You got a bite of an apple.
Worth it.
Let me tell you a story as old as time, the story of Adam and Eve. It starts with a God who wanted more. God had just created the heavens and the earth. He had the angels by his side, but they had no will of their own, and so the autonomy to love or reject him was never theirs. All but for one, the once called bringer of light.
Now, that's not exactly biblically accurate. If you know the story of Lucifer, you know that a third of the angels fell from heaven with him, so obviously they had freedom of will as well. So I think all of the angels had the freedom to decide to worship God or to reject him, and only a third of them rejected him. So it's not completely biblically accurate, but that's really kind of a side point to the story.
Lucifer, morning star. Lucifer was the fairest and most intelligent of all the angels. He was the closest thing to God's image, and in his likeliness, Lucifer felt restless. He began to question and doubt God. He doubted the hierarchy opposed upon him. He felt God was arrogant. In his frustration, Lucifer built a throne that stood even above God's and declared mutiny. A war ensued. God, being all-powerful, came out the victor and banished Lucifer from the heavens and exiled him to earth. Once again, God was alone with his power. Perhaps from loneliness, perhaps from curiosity, perhaps from a desire to share love, God began to work on his greatest project yet, a being that would mirror himself, the human, two humans specifically, Adam and Eve. They were placed inside a paradise built for them on earth, the Garden of Eden. In the garden, God placed a tree that bared fruit that would grant anyone who ate it powers bestowed only to a God, to tell good from evil, left from right, to live righteously or to sin. He named this the tree of knowledge. God told Adam and Eve they could eat whatever they wanted in the garden, but never the fruit from the tree of knowledge. And if they disobeyed him, it would be punishable by death. The basic way the story of Eden is told is that Eve was tempted by Lucifer in the form of a serpent to eat a fruit from the tree of knowledge. Convinced, she bit the fruit, she passed it to Adam, and he did the same. Suddenly, ultimate knowledge filled their minds, and they realized they were naked and felt shame. God discovered this betrayal and felt angered. He exiled Adam and Eve and cursed them with the life of a mortal. They would work, they would bear children, and they would die. The fate of a human. Now look deeper.
In the story, the serpent tempted me by telling me I would gain ultimate knowledge and that God would spare me.
Both were true.
This wasn't some great deception, meaning that Satan, in the likeliness of God, perhaps understood his intentions. In fact,
The only lie uttered in the
Garden of Eden was
by God, who did not end up
condemning
Adam and Eve to
death.
This could be seen as an act of
Mercy, but the sheer fact that the tree existed and that humans
were initially cut off from this knowledge.
may imply some part of God was afraid that if humans were granted the gift of perception, they, like Lucifer, would have the power to reject him too. The fact that there stood a beautiful tree that could
grant this knowledge in the first place
implies that a small part of
God, supposedly all-knowing,
perhaps wanted and intended
the humans to
bite too.
In the Bible, Satan was an exiled angel of free will. Humans are exiled
descendants of Adam and Eve.
also with free will. Not only have we shared a similar fate to the devil, we were also both constructed in
We
the
were
image
also
of our
both
Creator,
constructed in the image of our Creator.
meaning our behaviors, in some shape or form, imperfectly echo his.
We could assume that this kind of
God has his doubts,
But
but as the most
powerful
Being in the universe
he has no one above him
to turn to with questions, and no one to
Doubt but himself, an incredibly lonely and isolating existence.
We must only assume that the common thread between God, Lucifer, and us is the desire for more, an eternal curiosity, a desire perhaps birthed from a seed of loneliness. If not, why would we exist in the first place? constantly looping bittersweet irony is whether gifted by some omnipotent God or simply a byproduct of billions of years of evolution, here we stand in 2023 as creatures with free will, the only creatures that understand and define good from bad, creatures with the potential of a God. And what do we do with that free will, my friends? We willingly walk to the edge of a cliff. In the name of progress, we jump off the precipice. The empires we build ravage the earth. The natural order of things are necessary to survive. Any systems which do not honor homeostasis eventually perish. Our free will overrides our own biological instinct. We can take more than we eat. We can kill more than we need. We can willingly create weapons with the potential to burn everything we've built to the ground. We willingly decide to bow at the altar of greed, the most insidious and destructive of all sins. We put our faith in corporations who pose as rulers. We willingly allow ourselves to be led by outdated power systems ran by corrupted politicians
and bloated dictators who claim domain and dominion over an open and free land.
We willingly elect the corrupted when the decision was always ours to build something better. We willingly create and impose separation because of beliefs that we are force-fed through our phones and television sets. We always had the will to reject these things, but we adhere to them as though they were the laws of physics. War, famine, pestilence, greed, these aren't things imposed upon us by an all-powerful God or by his demonic adversary. They are here because of us, not because of free will, but because of our inability to use it. We must be motivated to be better, not out of fear of punishment of an eternal damnation, but because the choice exists, because we love ourselves, because we have the power to absolve ourselves of so much unnecessary suffering. Take a second to be in this very moment. In this moment, how much suffering is happening all over the planet right now? How many people are dying of illnesses that could have easily been cured, but aren't because of the selfishness and greediness of humanity? How many people break their backs and reject their own passions to simply afford bills and food? How many of us crave distraction from existence? How many of us numb that pain in whatever way necessary? How many children are being abused? How many people sleep cold and hungry on the streets? How many of us become cogs inside a machine that is destroying itself? How many soldiers have been forced to fight in meaningless wars? How many humans have killed for ideals they don't believe in or understand? How many people have died for the greed of another man? And how much of this was avoidable? As written in the Bible, Satan was not condemned to hell. Satan was condemned to earth. He lives there amongst other creatures with free will, who always had the choice and still chose their own undoing. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our self-made hell. The bittersweet irony is this is a creation of our own design. I'll leave you with this. Consider what you have done here today. You have worked together as individuals collaborating to form a giant neural network, a hive mind capable of achieving incredible things. We have lent on each other's strengths to solve puzzles and decipher riddles, and we've done so to win money. Imagine applying that same spirit and determination to creating the closest thing we have to paradise here on Earth. By using the power of collaboration, we can work together to even the playing field for everybody. Our dystopias can become utopias. Our Jahannams can become Jannah. Our hells can become heaven, right here on Earth. And this sentiment applies to atheists, agnostics, and believers alike. Myself, I'm an agnostic who believes. I believe in us. We must do better because we can choose to. We must be better simply because the option exists. Thank you.
Wow. That is my first time seeing that. And there's a lot to digest. It's not completely biblically accurate. But again, that's beside the point. The mere fact that he's revealing that Satan exists and talking about it and getting people thinking about it is what is of value to me. You see, Satan is the god of this world. That's what the Bible says. The god of this world. He controls it. The only way that you can get out of his control is to turn to God, to get born again, and to become a child of God who is under his protection and guidance. There's no other way. And I'm not going to get into a philosophical discussion about what happens to the people that never hear about God, because that's a silly discussion. If they want to hear about God, they will. Trust me, God knows how to do that. It's well beyond my intelligence and capability to figure that out, but it's not beyond God's. But when you look at Ren's story and what he's been through, he's been to what some of us might describe as to hell and back. And the reason he has is because he's been exposed to drugs. Now, don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that every single drug you take is bad. I'm not saying that every time you take a bad drug, it turns you into psychotic. What I'm saying is what the Bible says. If you look at the Bible in the Greek, there's a word in the Greek that is pronounced pharmakia. And if you look at the verses where it appears, it only appears twice. It uses the word sorcery, okay, or witchcraft. That's the two words that it's translated as, witchcraft or sorcery. The fact is that there are drugs that are given to people, and there are what we call illegal drugs that people take that can open their mind up to Satan's realm. And once that happens, you will find things that you could not have imagined. This is a verse in Galatians, and there's a verse in the Revelations that talks about it and uses the word sorcery. I'll put all these links in the description. But what I would recommend to you, if you're curious and want to know more about this and understand this better, is to either go to your library or go to Amazon or some other bookseller and find the book. And now my mind's gone completely blank. Oh boy. The Challenging Counterfeit by Raphael Gasson. Raphael Gasson was a person who got into the drug business, got into taking drugs, and got introduced to the occult and witchcraft and sorcery. And then he became a Christian. And when he became a Christian, he fought some massive battles against devil spirits. If you don't believe those exist, and you read this book, you'll find out they do. And maybe you'll gain a greater understanding about your own life and some of the things that you've experienced. But I'm going to tell you this, and I've said it many times before, and I'll say it many times again. The devil does exist. He is in control of this world, and he wants to destroy you. And he will do everything in his power to do that. All you have to do is follow the instructions in Romans 10:9 and 10. Confess with your mouth the Lord Jesus, and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead. That's all it takes. 2 little requirements. There's nothing you can do. But if you do those 2 things, there's nothing you can do to be saved. You can't be saved by any works that you might do. But if you do those 2 things, then God will save you. And once you're saved, you're no longer part of the devil's property. He can still mess around with you. He can still mess up your life. He can still destroy you. He can still kill you if you don't walk with God. But he's lost the power over you. And it's up to you to decide that he's not going to get into your life, and he's not going to control your life, and he's not going to destroy your life. That takes walking with God on a daily basis, praying constantly and fervently. But if you've been into drugs before, you may have experienced some things that you couldn't explain, that you thought were otherworldly. They were, because there is a spirit realm that exists right here on earth, that exists right beside you, that can influence you and influence other people, and in some cases can actually inhabit your body. We call it possession. If you've seen the movie Exorcist, that was real. That was not fake. Yes, the movie is fake, but the principles behind it and the capabilities behind it are not fake. People can get possessed, and they can get healed. So I think, having watched this, that I would say that Ren has been to that other side of the world because of the drugs that they had him on for so long. And he's seen the darkness, and he's chosen to reject it. Whether he's accepted God or not, I don't know, and it's not my business to know. That's up to him and God. But I know that he's been to that dark side, and he's seen it, and that's the reason why he can talk about it so intelligently and explain it to you. As always, I pray that God will keep you healthy and give you long life and bless you with abundance and keep you safe. I pray that God will do the same for every single person that you love. And I pray that you will be anxious for nothing, but in all things, through prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, you will make your requests be made known to God. And then the peace that passes all understanding will keep your heart and mind through Christ Jesus. This is the Vietnam Era Vet out.